It's December 10th, a Friday, which means some new albums have been dropped, and one of the albums that have been dropped is Wrld with Fighting Demons. I've literally just come off of listening to this album, so I wanted to give my first thoughts and initial review to it. Before we get any further, leave a like and subscribe for more music reviews and just random shit I do on my channel. Now, in terms of how the album sounds, let's say it's an 8 out of 10 in terms of the sort of genre and style of genre that Wrld music is. I think in terms of what it's going for, it's an 8 out of 10. If we take it outside that bubble, I'm going to give it like a 7 out of 10. I feel like that's what I'm kind of bouncing between, and I feel like that's the fairest way for me to sort of give my score. But I think the thing that I really do love about this album is the fact that it feels like Wrld is in the studio and he's there actually producing it himself. It feels like something genuine that he would actually want to have thrown out there and actually put into the world. And it's none of that sort of XXS Tentacion type shit where they've kind of taken what was left from him and just made some interpretation of what they think he sounds like. And it's felt throughout all the songs to me that it feels like something Wrld actually put together himself and actually kind of like has his sort of stamp on it in my, like, or as good as a stamp you can get on it in like a post-morphous sense. So in terms of the songs that stand out to me, I can't remember the names of them just yet because I've only listened to them once, so I've got Spotify up right now. So Already Dead really stood out, Rockstar in His Prime, what else we got? Feline was really good. I quite like that, especially Apollo G and Trippie Redd. I felt like they gave quite emotional parts to the songs. And I actually really like Relocate because one of the things I wanted, that I felt very much in this album, and I'm going to go into a bit more, and this might be a good transition for it, is that a lot of these songs feel very much are Wrld just sort of talking about his drug addiction and like how sad it makes him. So having a song like Relocate where he's actually talking about relocating his family and actually taking care of other people and kind of switching up the topic of the album feels quite good. And like same thing with sort of Girl of My Dreams, it feels like a lot of the songs in terms of the topic they're on about are just about Wrld's drug addiction, but those two songs definitely sort of are a nice break up from it and kind of just focusing on a different subject. And I may have missed something because obviously I've only listened through once, so it might take me a few times to actually realise not all the songs are about that, but that was just my first impression. And I quite like My Life in a Nutshell. I felt like the perfect sort of ending track for the album as well. So sonically, I'm giving it, as I said, 8 out of 10 for the sort of Wrld style of music, but 7 out of 10 in terms of just like taking a step back and looking at it in regards to sort of hip hop in general. Which then brings me on to the second part of the video that I kind of want to go into, and that's how fucking sad this album is and how I now want them to kind of like call off on making any Wrld albums. Like, if you want to release the odd single, go for it. But if you want to make another album, I would really just like not. But obviously I don't have any say in that. Like, let's be real, what the fuck am I gonna do? And here's the issue that I have with the album, and that's that it's the second post-morphous album that has been released by Wrld and his team. And I was fine with the first one because it felt like very much that he was working on something, and obviously unfortunately passed away during the process of making that, and decided that let's finish it off for him and actually release it as kind of like his swan song and just like his goodbye. And that for me felt like enough to, I mean, this album is kind of, you question, do you need it? Obviously because of who Wrld is and how he was in his songs and the stuff that he talked about is very drug related, his addiction and everything. But for me, I find it hard to sort of listen to it when he's literally overdosed because of this drug addiction. And I find it so fucking sad how it's like, they're going back and looking at all his like previous stuff, and it's like they're trying to take out verses and like hooks and everything, but it's like all they seem to find is just how much he is screaming out for help in the sense of his drug addiction. And obviously it makes it worse when you kind of hear interviews of people sort of talking, or like people who were close to him actually talking about the fact that he was trying to get clean at the end. And then you get a whole post-morphous album, a second one, which is basically about that drug addiction and basically kind of the thing that led up to the event that happened that caused his death. And I just find it a really awkward thing listening to, and I'm not gonna lie, I kind of started crying like I think twice during my listening of this, and it was just kind of like I was thinking about it in my head and just like having this emotion towards it and just like feeling like I can't listen to this at points, and having to pause it, just being like I just need to take a like minute to not listen to this for a second, because it's like I think this album's good, but it's not one I really want to come back to. Not because it sounds bad, just because it's such a weird thing. And it's not even like the thing of like, some people are going to look at it and be like, oh, this is like this really meta thing of like, he knew he was going to die sort of thing. And it's like, can we just stop that? Like, it's nothing like some conspiracy theory that he knew his death and that he was going to die, or that it's some major coincidence. It's like, when you think about it, Wrld knew himself that he was going to die. Not in the sense that he's planned it out, but he just knew that the lifestyle he was having was going to lead him down that road. It's not this meta thing of like, oh, he's like, whatever the fuck you want to call it. It is just sad and upsetting that he literally is screaming out for help and actually like trying to express how he's feeling and how he actually wants to fight his demons, and then died doing it, which is just a major part of why I just find it difficult to listen to this album. And to me, it kind of feels like this sort of stuff is stuff that Juice WRLD had recorded kind of more as on a personal level, just to kind of like get it out there and probably help him through that process of trying to actually go clean in a weird way. And I think that's my biggest gripe with this album, is that the whole concept of it is literally called Fighting Demons, and it's like, it feels like the people who were kind of helping produce it decided we'll call it that because that's all Juice WRLD is talking about. He's talking about fighting his demons, and it's like, I wouldn't have an issue with this album if he was still alive and had put it out himself. But the fact that it's after his death, it just kind of adds more to the kind of stigma of it all. So that's kind of my biggest issue, but I will look at it from a more positive light and end it on this, is that there are going to be a lot of people who actually might be saved by this album. Like, there are going to be a lot of people, especially Juice WRLD fans, who obviously addicted to drugs or going through shit, and this album has actually got the potential to help them and actually give them the outlet to listen to, express their feelings, how music should be. Like, the thing with Juice WRLD is that he himself as a person, he was just a positive guy and actually wanted to raise the people around him up. But one of the ways he did that in his music was talking about what made him sad and depressed, and use it to kind of try and fuel others, let them know they're not alone, and try and bring them up so they kind of don't end up like him in the sense. And I feel like that's what this album's going to do. I feel like anyone who is really into Juice WRLD is going to listen to it, and whatever they're going through, that positivity, even though it's not like explicit, like, it's just Juice WRLD talking about his drug addictions, and it's going to make them feel like they're not alone, like they've got their output, and it may actually help save their lives in some sense. And I think one of my favourite parts on this album is the Eminem bit. This isn't just me being like the Eminem stan that I am. This is genuinely like, even if I wasn't a fan of Eminem, like this, like the Eminem Speaks section, I really like how they had those sections as well. I think those really added to the album with the two Juice WRLD Speaks sections. But I feel like the Eminem one was actually a really good one, as he himself was talking about his addiction. And I think it was a great way to bring in a legend of rap and hip hop and just music in general, to actually kind of bring him back down to earth in a sense, and sort of show people that he had his own addictions and stuff. Obviously, it was very public at the time, but it's been over a decade since that sort of stuff was happening with Eminem. And as one of Juice WRLD's heroes, to have him on the album actually talking about his own addiction and kind of relating him to Juice, it's kind of like a reminder that we're all human, and just how honest Eminem was in that. It's kind of that etch. I feel like if it didn't have those speaking sections, like the Eminem one, like the other two Juice WRLD ones, then the message of the album would have been lost in that sense of, it's not telling you to do drugs, it's actually, despite how much Juice WRLD is on about it, it's actually telling you to fight your addiction. But it's kind of wrap up at this point now, like in terms of how Juice WRLD is talking on this album, rapping and whatnot, it's completely devastating to me, and I don't like listening to it now, especially after he's OD'd and died because of it. Like, I find it difficult to listen to, but I think it's important to kind of not ignore it, but to kind of focus more on the positive side of this and the fact that it is going to help people. So I feel like that was like the big ramble main point and main reason I wanted to make this video. So if people are struggling, I would genuinely like, and they want an outlet like music, I would actually give them this album, because I think it's a very powerful album when you actually consider everything, not just listen to the whole I'm just going to take drugs and just ignore my problems sort of shit. There's a deeper meaning to it than that. Like, this album's not actually trying to encourage it, it's actually trying to prevent it, and kind of be that reminder of Juice WRLD was trying to fight his demons and died doing it, but so try and use that to not go down the same path. And I think that's a good place to sort of leave this video on. I wanted to get out there and just sort of like talk about my feelings on the album. Overall, I think there's some good music within it. I think it's solid, and I think actually we'll just call it an 8 out of 10, because I think that's fair. So yeah, there you go. That's the video. Let me know how you thought about the album in the comments below, and I shall see you in a future video over the next 2 or 3 weeks probably. You'll see. We'll find out. So yeah, I've been Ollie Rodriguez. Later.
Self-doubt making me doubt my name is getting